Hello everyone, welcome back to Medical Concepts. This is Shubham. So today I'm starting with the proliferative inflammation in this series. So let's start with the question number 41. During the ultrastructural examination of biopsy material, there was detected an increased amount of lysosomes in the cytoplasm of the macrophages, right? That forms the inflammatory infiltration. Okay, so this is the evidence of what? Now guys, you must have studied about the lysosomes in the 11th 12th standard textbooks. That lysosomes, we have studied that they are also called as suicidal bags, right? So they are responsible for the killing purpose. And also the macrophages, what is the function of macrophages? The function of the macrophages is the phagocytosis. So mainly the phagocytosis is actually done by the help of two main cells or two important substances. They are the macrophages and the neutrophils inside our body. Okay, so what is the function or the main functions of the macrophages and the neutrophils? They are actually doing the phagocytosis inside our body, and in many ways this is helpful for us. Now if they are asking you the evidence of what, then answer should be definitely phagocytosis activation. Now let's understand about the phagocytosis in brief. Phagocytosis is actually the process of engulfment and actually entrapping of some kind of foreign agents. Okay, it might be bacteria, it might be virus, it might be any other kind of unwanted substance inside our body. So phagocytosis is actually important for us to get rid from these nasty kind of microorganisms. So it is a process of engulfment and trapping of some of the foreign agents. We know about that. What are the main two important tools which are actually functioning on the basis of phagocytosis? They are the macrophages and the neutrophils. Okay, now let's talk about the steps also. There are three important main steps as far as phagocytosis is concerned. So first one is the recognition and the attachment of the particle whichever has to be ingested by the macrophage, right? So they will actually recognize whatever microorganism is it. For an example, there was an invasion of some kind of bacteria, so our macrophage, they will identify or recognize this particular microorganism, and they will attach to this microorganism. Okay, and they will try to ingest it. That is the first step. What will be the second step in this story? Then they will engulf, right? They will engulf this particular microorganism inside them, and along with that there will be the formation, there will be the subsequent formation of the phagocytic vacuole. Okay, that will be the second step, and the final step will be the killing or degradation. Okay, so they will actually process themselves in killing that particular microorganism. So killing or degradation of that ingested microorganism will be happening in the third step. That will be the final step. So that they are the important steps for the phagocytosis, important tools for the phagocytosis. As they're functioning, they are the neutrophils and the macrophages. They are talking about the lysosome, they are talking about the macrophages. Definitely the answer should be phagocytosis activation. Okay, I hope you got this one. Let's talk about question number 42. During the histological examination of a 24-year-old patient's skin biopsy material, they were detected a caseous necrosis. I told you, caseous necrosis is found in the lungs, basically surrounded by the lymphocyte infiltration with single giant cell. That is important. Now what are the giant cells? We'll be talking about that. Connecting tissue enlargement, endovasculitis. What kind of pathological process is this? So guys, if they are talking about the giant cells, they are also called as Pirogov giant cells. So they are actually found in the granulomatous inflammation. Okay, so now let's talk about the granulomatous inflammation in a brief. Look, it is kind of a chronic inflammatory reaction. I'm talking about the granulomatous inflammation now. It is a kind of chronic inflammatory reaction in which the main important cell, predominant cell, is an activated macrophage. This activated macrophage is having the modified epithelial like appearance. Okay, this particular macrophage is having the modified epithelial like appearance, and if this macrophage, if this activated macrophage with the modified epithelial cells or with the modified epithelioid appearance, if they are fusing together, then we are calling that a giant cell, right? So I repeat, if that activated macrophage with a modified epithelial appearance, if they are fusing together, then they are making the giant cell. Okay, so basically these giant cell are the part of granulomatous inflammation. So that's what they were talking about over here, that the giant cells were found in this particular one. And so what is they happening, so what kind of pathological inflammation, what kind of pathological process they are talking about? So definitely they are talking about the granulomatous inflammation. So this is the productive granulomatous inflammation, right? Talking about the next one, question number 43. Autopsy of a dead 60-year-old man has shown a great number of white nodules of cone size in the lungs and the liver. Microscopically, they detected many granulomas. Okay, many granulomas with a focus of necrosis in the middle on the periphery of the granulomas. Okay, they are talking about the granulomas over here, right? Epithelioid, lymphoid, plasma cells, macrophages, and Pirogov-Langerhans cells. Okay, Pirogov-Langerhans cells are the same which are the giant cells. Okay, they are the giant cells which dominates in infiltrates what granuloma is meant. So definitely they are talking about the giant cell, right? They are talking about what? They are talking about the giant cell. Now let me tell you what are the giant cells. I told you that there is the activated macrophage. They're the part of granulomatous inflammation first of all, and this granulomatous inflammation is having the particular cell that is the activated macrophage. Now this predominant cell, this is the important component of granulomatous inflammation, right? So this activated macrophage along with its epithelioid appearance, whenever they are fusing together, they are making up the giant cells. Now whenever these giant cells, first of all the giant cells, they are having 20 or more nuclei along with them. So they are having the multinucleated appearance. So many kind of nucleus is present, many nucleus are present over there, more than 20 sometimes. Now this nuclei may arrange at the periphery like horseshoe, or they may form a ring like structure at the two poles. Now this particular appearance is called as Langerhans giant cells. Okay, which appearance I'm talking about? If they are forming the ring or clustered at two poles, or they are arranging themselves at the periphery, this particular appearance is called as Langerhans giant cells. Okay, again found in which kind of inflammation? Granulomatous inflammation. But they are not asking us which type of inflammation, they are asking us what particular cell they are talking about. They are talking about the giant cell, also called as Pirogov-Langerhans cells. So I have inserted the image as well for the understanding purpose for you guys. So look at the giant cells, they are having the multiple nucleus over there. I hope you are able to recognize them, right? They are what? They are the multiple nucleus present over there, over here, right? Multiple nucleus are present over here. So this is what? This is the, they are the multiple nucleus, and this is the formation of the giant cell. These are the giant cells over here, right? Okay, they are nothing, they are fusing together. Okay, they are the activated macrophages with the epithelioid appearance. Okay, so these are called the giant cells. Okay, so these are the Pirogov-Langerhans giant cells. Complete name is this one. Okay, I hope you are clear with this one. Let's move further. Question number 44. Microscopic examination of biopsy kidney material has shown a focus with the granular eosinophilic masses in the middle that were surrounded by the lymphocytes infiltrate. Okay, epithelioid cells, and again the Pirogov-Langerhans cells. Now I hope guys you know about this one, that Pirogov-Langerhans cells, they are the giant cells found in which kind of inflammation? They are found in the granulomatous inflammation. So it's going to be easy for you. What pathological process they are talking about corresponds to the description the best. So that will be the granulomatous inflammation. Okay, we have already talked about that in detail. Okay, let's move further. Question number 40. A 46-year-old patient complained of having nasal breathing in the thickened nasal mucous membrane. Biopsy material muculus cells. Okay, I guess you already have the answer about this one. Muculus cells are found in the rhinoscleroma. You are right, but along with that we should know other kind of stuffs also, because examiner also knows this thing, that every student knows about the muculus cells, and we are studying about this from long back, right? But along with the muculus cells, we should also know about some other stuffs as well, which are happening in the rhinoscleroma, or which are the components of the rhinoscleroma, in other words, right? So what are those components? They are the epithelioid cells. Okay, they are the epithelioid cells. They are the plasmocytes, lymphocytes, and the hyaline spheres. These four things you should have in your mind before going to the examination, along with the muculus cells. Muculus cells you are not going to forget anyway. Okay, if you're not revising about the muculus cells also, then also you will be remembering about this, but you should know about these four more structures, which are the plasmocytes, lymphocytes, hyaline spheres, and the epithelioid cells. Okay, please remember about them as well. So that is the case of what? That is the case of rhinoscleroma. That is the case of rhinoscleroma. Okay, as the paper is evolving nowadays, examiners are actually asking you the same things, same topics, but they want to know whether you know the surrounding things of the topic or not. Okay, so that is the main thing. So let me summarize for you about the rhinoscleroma. First of all, this is a granuloma or the scleroma of the nose. This granuloma or the scleroma of the nose, we are calling that as rhinoscleroma. It is having four structures mainly: plasma cells, epithelial cells, lymphocytes, and hyaline spheres. Okay, these four things you should need to remember. All of them are mentioned in the question itself. They might ask you, they may frame this question in other words also. They may ask you that which of the following component is a part of rhinoscleroma except, okay, they might ask you this one, or which of the following is not a part of this one. They may ask you this question, this one, and they may ask you, these options can be there in your MCQ, that epithelial cell, plasmocyte, hyaline sphere, lymphocyte, these kind of options can come in your exam. If somebody will be asking you what is the causative agent of rhinoscleroma, you should know that as well. So I'm writing it over here, that is the Klebsiella rhinoscleromatis. Okay, so please remember about that as well. What is the causative agent of rhinoscleroma? That is the Klebsiella rhinoscleromatis. Okay, what is the most important cell which is the component of rhinoscleroma? Then your answer will be what? Then your answer will be Muculus cells. Then your answer will be Muculus cells. Okay, that is the thing. Along with that, other four are the important structures, but the most important is the Muculus cells. Okay, let's move further to the question number 46. In the nasal mucous membrane biopsy material, epithelial cells, plasmocytes, Muculus cells, again they are talking about which structure? Rhinoscleroma. Eosinophilic Russell corpuscles were detected. What is your diagnosis? Again, your diagnosis will be the rhinoscleroma. That's easy one for you, easy picking. Let's talk about the next one, question number 47. They are saying a patient who complained of dyspnea had nasal mucous membrane biopsy done. Diagnosis what made? Rhinoscleroma. A lot of questions about rhinoscleroma. What cells are typical of this illness in case of microscopy? So again, what kind of cells you will be finding? Important one was the Muculus cells, right? Important one was the Muculus cells. Okay, Pirogov-Langen cells, that was the important structure for the, they are also called as, yes, we were calling them as giant cells. That was the part of the granulomatous inflammation, isn't it? Okay, let's talk about the next one, question number 48. They are saying a 40-year-old man had hyperemia and the edema of the skin in the neck region. Okay, fine. In the course of time, a small pyogenic abscess developed there. Okay, then the focus is solid of yellow green color on the cut surface. Okay, white grains can be seen in the pulmonary mass. Histological examination showed fungus, druses, plasma, and xanthoma cells. Okay, so along with that, macrophages indicate the most possible kind of mycosis. Okay, that's saying which kind of fungus they are talking about. Okay, so the main component over here is, first of all, you need to know what kind of inflammation they are talking about. As they are saying macrophage, I told you about the macrophages along with the epithelial appearance, which if they were fusing together, then we were calling them as giant cells. So that was the granulomatous inflammation. So they are talking about that. Now they want to know which fungus is an example of this one. So for solving this one, you need to know the examples, some of the examples of the chronic granulomatous inflammation. So let's talk about some of the examples. However, in this particular question, there is one more hint that they are talking about the xanthoma cells, which are found in which fungus? That is the actinomycosis. So here the answer will be the actinomycosis. And if you don't know about this one also, so you can identify the inflammation, that which type of inflammation they are talking about. For example, this is a case of granulomatous inflammation, and if you know the example of granulomatous inflammation, then you can rule out easily. Okay, so anyways, I am talking about both the methods. Xanthoma cells are found in actinomycosis. And what are the other examples of the granulomatous inflammation? So actinomycosis is one of the example of granulomatous inflammation. What are the other examples? I am going to talk about them. So these other examples are tuberculosis, leprosy, syphilis, actinomycosis, as this is the answer, and sarcoidosis. These are the other examples which you can remember as far as granulomatous inflammation is concerned. Okay, which kind of inflammation we are talking about? This is a granulomatous inflammation. Fine. So they are the examples of this one. Okay, fine. So now let's move further and let's start with the immune associated processes. Okay, fine. So let's talk about the question number 41. During the treatment of 39-year-old patient with purulent pulpitis, he had infiltration anesthesia with the ultracaine. Ultracaine, you know, this is the one of the local anesthetic, with adrenaline solution done. Okay, adrenaline we are mixing with that to, you know, decrease the toxicity and to increase the duration of this anesthesia. Suddenly hyperemia, skin edema with blisters and itching appeared. So what is actually happening? Suddenly, you know, suddenly hyperemia, skin edema and blisters and itching appeared. So they are talking about the anaphylaxis, guys. They are talking about the anaphylaxis. So this is the immediate reaction, right? So this is the which kind of hypersensitivity they are talking about. This is the immediate hypersensitivity. Anaphylaxis they are talking about. Anaphylaxis is an important example of type 1 hypersensitivity, immediate hypersensitivity. So they are asking you what kind of hypersensitivity does the patient have. This is the type 1 hypersensitivity, but there is no option like that. This is the immediate hypersensitivity, no option like that, but they are talking about the anaphylaxis. So your answer should be anaphylactic. Anaphylactic is another name for anaphylaxis, right? Anaphylactic reaction. Okay, so that is the case. Okay, in this case what we are giving, actually we are giving the adrenaline. Okay, fine. Let's talk about the next one. So this was the type 1 hypersensitivity, obviously type 1 hypersensitivity reaction. Fine. Next question is, during the histological examination of a man who had bronchial asthma for many years, the eosinophils in the lumen of bronchioles and small bronchi, intra-alveolar septa sclerosis and alveolar lumen dilatation were detected. What mechanism hypersensitivity? Guys, they are talking about the bronchial asthma, they are talking about the eosinophils. Which kind of antibody are elevated over here? That is the IgE. They are talking about which hypersensitivity? I told you in the class as well, that is the type 1 hypersensitivity or the immediate hypersensitivity reaction. Okay, what is the important example of that? That is the reagent reaction. Okay, so that is simple one for you. So that is the reagent reaction, type 1 hypersensitivity. Again, they are talking about the eosinophils will be increased over here. What antibody they might ask you? Then that will be the IgE. Okay, what can be the example? That can be the bronchial asthma, right? Reagent reaction, Cassoni reaction, you can example one of the important type. Cassoni reaction can also be the example. Cassoni reaction can also be the example, which is seen in the Echinococcus granulosum or Echinococcus multilocularis. That is the, you know, your dog tapeworm that is causing the headache cyst. There you can find the Cassoni reaction. Okay, that is also the part of type 1 hypersensitivity reaction. Fine. However, I will be providing the notes of the same in the description box below. You can check them out. Question number 51. They are saying that during the histological examination of the left atrial auricular biopsy material, a rheumatic granuloma was detected. It had developed from the fibrillar necrosis focus surrounded by the basophil macrophages, okay, and lymphocytes. That is important for us. Macrophages and lymphocytes are seen over there. Fibroblast and single plasmocytes. Name the possible type of inflammatory reaction of the immune basis. So what kind of inflammatory reaction or what kind of hypersensitivity they are talking about? First of all, let me tell you that they are talking about the delayed type of hypersensitivity reaction over here. Now, why is it so? Look, delayed type of hypersensitivity reaction, as most of you know about this already, that they are talking about which kind of hypersensitivity. They are talking about the type 4 hypersensitivity reaction. First of all, okay, it should be very, very clear in your mind, because if delayed type is not given, then your answer will be obviously type 4 hypersensitivity reaction. Now, in type 4 hypersensitivity reaction or delayed type hypersensitivity reaction, what actually happens? Two types of cells are actually taking part in this particular reaction. What are these two types of cells? This is the lymphocyte and the macrophages. So they have talked about that. They are saying this necrosis focus was surrounded by the basophil macrophages and the lymphocytes. Okay, in the question itself they are mentioning about that. So they are sensibilized lymphocytes and the macrophages, which are actually helping or participating in the delayed type hypersensitivity reaction or type 4 hypersensitivity reaction. So what actually happens is that, you know, they are characterized by the lymphocyte and macrophage. This lymphocyte and macrophage, they will be making the infiltration. You just need to remember that lymphocyte and macrophage infiltration is seen in which kind of hypersensitivity reaction? That is the delayed type, which is also called as type 4 hypersensitivity reaction. So lymphocyte macrophage infiltration is seen. Okay, what can be the other condition in which we can appreciate the delayed type hypersensitivity reaction? That will be the autoimmune. That can be the autoimmune disease. Tuberculosis can be seen in some cases. If you talk about the mainly the lungs, if they are talking about brucellosis can be there, dermatitis can be there. You know which dermatitis? That is the contact dermatitis with the contact with the poison ivy. Then several kind of granulomatous reactions or granulomatous inflammation can be the part of this one, right? So you just need to remember about the macrophage and lymphocyte infiltration. Okay, that is the main part of the delayed type or type 4 hypersensitivity reaction. Question number 52, they are saying that a 4-year-old child had a Mantoux test done. Mantoux test is an example of which kind of hypersensitivity reaction. If somebody will be asking you, then this will be the example of the type 4 hypersensitivity reaction. In 60 hours after subcutaneous tuberculin introduction, a focal induration and skin hyperemia 15 mm in diameter appeared. This was considered a positive test. Okay, that was considered a positive test. What kind of hypersensitivity? Again, they are saying what kind of hypersensitivity. It will be delayed type hypersensitivity or it will be the type 4 hypersensitivity reaction. So your answer will be delayed type hypersensitivity reaction, which is also called as type 4 hypersensitivity reaction, right? Moving on to the next one, question number 53, puncture biopsy has shown a diffuse infiltration of stroma by the lymphocyte, plasmocytes and the lymphoblast. Okay, plasmoblast and a necrotic arteritis in a transplanted kidney. What pathological process developed in the transplant? So they are saying transplanted kidney was there and biopsy shows lymphocyte, plasmocyte, so everything is actually observing over there. So what is actually happening? This transplanted kidney was not having a good time in the recipient body, so there is a chance of the transplant rejection. There is a chance of the transplant rejection. Not given in the option, immune rejection can also be considered as the transplant rejection. Okay, so what actually happens in this transplant rejection? And if somebody is asking you which kind of hypersensitivity that you can relate it to, that will be again type 4 hypersensitivity reaction or delayed type hypersensitivity reaction. Okay, if in case they are asking you the type of hypersensitivity reaction, what happens in this transplant rejection or immune rejection? Look, this transplant antigen, they actually induce the production of the antibodies and the sensibilized lymphocytes. Okay, again antibodies and the lymphocytes. Now these antibodies and the lymphocyte, they will infiltrate the transplant. Okay, now what happens is, for an example, look over here. Okay, this is the transplant. Let's say here is the body. Okay, here is the body of the patient. Whenever it will be going inside this body, okay, that will induce the production of antibodies. Along with these antibodies, so I'm writing it over here. Okay, along with this antibody, there will be the production of lymphocytes. Okay, now what will happen? Now they will actually infiltrate the transplant. They will actually whenever this transplant will be present over here, let's say it was here. Okay, they will infiltrate this transplant, and whenever the transplant infiltration will start, okay, this lymphohistiocyte, we are calling that as which kind of infiltration? Lymphohistiocyte infiltration will be observing in this transplant. Now that will cause the disturbance of the blood circulation, that will cause the edema of the body. Okay, and as a result, necrosis of the transplant will happen. Okay, and due to the necrosis of the transplant rejection will be seen in the body, or the immune rejection will be seen in the body. As you can say that immune system has actually rejected this particular transplant. Okay, that's why we are giving, along with the transplant, we are giving some kind of immunosuppressants, right, to stop or to minimize this risk in the patient. Okay, so that was about the immune rejection or the transplant rejection. Question number 54, autopsy of a 6-month-old baby who died of sepsis has shown the absence of thymus gland. As you know, the thymus gland is responsible for the maturation of T lymphocytes or T cells. So there might be the deficiency of T lymphocytes for sure, right? So spleen weight and the mass decrease, spleen weight and the size decrease. Actually, microscopically they are detected the absence of periarterial T dependent follicle zones with the red pulp. You know, we are having the white pulp and the red pulp inside the spleen. The absence of pericortical zone in the lymph node, which were presented mostly by the T lymphocytes, B zones of the peripheral immune organs are developed normally. What pathological process they are talking about? So as I said, absence of thymus gland was there, T lymphocytes will be decreasing, and whenever there is a deficiency of T lymphocytes, we are calling that as Dyegeorge syndrome. Whenever there will be the deficiency of B lymphocytes, we will be calling that as Bruton's disease. Whenever there will be the deficiency of B and T lymphocytes both, we are calling that as SCIDS, that is the severe combined immunodeficiency syndrome. Okay, so guys, please remember that for the pathophysiology, that if they are asking you about the deficiency of T lymphocytes, that can be the Dyegeorge. If they are asking you the deficiency of B lymphocyte, that can be the Bruton's disease. If they are asking you the deficiency of both, that can be the SCID, that is the severe combined immunodeficiency syndrome, right? So in this particular question, they were talking about the absence of thymus gland. Obviously T cells will be reducing down, so your answer will be Dyegeorge syndrome, right? Dyegeorge syndrome, cellular immunity. As you said that, as you know actually, that cellular immunity is responsible for the T lymphocyte, right? So T lymphocytes are helping in the cellular immunity, and B lymphocytes are helping in the humoral immunity, right? So the answer will be Dyegeorge syndrome. Here the T lymphocyte will be decreasing. T lymphocytes will be decreasing, isn't it? Okay, let's move further and let's talk about the question number 55. An infantile girl of 14 suddenly died after an acute respiratory viral infection. Autopsy has shown drastic thymus enlargement. Okay, drastic thymus enlargement, generalized hyperplasia of the lymph node, and hyperplasia of the ovaries. Okay, so you need to understand it very, very carefully. Diagnose the disease. Okay, all the options are given about or given related to the thymus. Okay, so you should be very, very sure about your concept, that what kind of thing you are asking. Okay, guessing will not work out in this question at all. Okay, almost around 5% of the student might guess it right, but guessing will not work in these kind of questions. So you should know actually the concept over here. So they are talking about two things, that one is the drastic thymus enlargement. Okay, second thing is hypoplasia of the ovaries. They are connected to each other, and they want to ask you, they want to check your knowledge whether you know about this particular relationship about the thymus or not. Okay, if you know the relation, you know the answer already. Okay guys, so let me talk about this particular relation. They are saying in this particular question about the thymus hyperplasia. So they are talking about a thymomegaly or enlargement of the thymus. We are also calling as thymus hyperplasia. You know, the number of cells of the thymus are increasing actually. The weight on the, and obviously if the number of cells are increasing in the thymus, the weight and the size of the thymus will also considerably increase. Now if you will be doing the microscopic examination of the thymus, in this case there will be the large number of immature lobules, and due to these large number of immature lobules, there is the thymus hyperplasia in this particular situation. Obviously density of the thymocytes will also increase, that will be high, right? And if this particular thymus hyperplasia, if it is accompanied along with the hypoplasia, okay, so listen to that carefully, hypoplasia, if this particular thymus hyperplasia is actually accompanied along with the hypoplasia of either adrenal gland or the sexual gland or narrow aorta arteries, then this pathological process will be called as thymolymphatic state. Okay, then it will be called as thymolymphatic state. Okay, so in this particular question, very smartly they don't give the option of thymus hyperplasia. Okay, because if they will be giving you thymus hyperplasia, then you might know that they are talking about the generalized hyperplasia in the question. Thymus enlargement was there, so most of you might have guessed it right, but they have not mentioned about thymus hyperplasia. Instead of that, they mentioned about the status thymolymphaticus. So thymolymphatic state is what? If the thymus hyperplasia is accompanied with hypoplasia, not hyper, hypoplasia of either adrenal gland or the sexual glands. Sexual glands in our case, that is the ovary, isn't it? So it can be either adrenal gland, hypoplasia of the adrenal gland, sexual gland, or narrowed aorta or arteries, then your answer will be the thymolymphatic state. Okay, so very important one. Okay, so that was about the question number 55. Let's move on and let's talk about the next question. A 5-year-old child died of acute destructive staphylococcal pneumonia. During the examination of the thymus, its mass decreased to 3 grams. So mass is decreasing. The mass is decreasing to 3 grams was detected. Histological examination showed the region regress of the glands lobules. greatly decrease lymphocytes amount with the stroma collapse, soleus invasion, gangling enlargement of Hassel's corpuscles. Hassel corpuscles, I told you in the class as well, many times the Hassel corpuscles are a part of thymus. Okay, sometimes they ask you directly, from the histology point of view, they might ask you Hassel corpuscles are a component of which of the following lymphoid organ. They will be giving the option spleen, thymus, lymph node and all those things. So it is a component of thymus. Sometimes they give you that central artery or central arteriole is a component of, that is a component of the spleen. Okay, so you should know these kind of common terms. So what is the most possible diagnosis over here? They were saying about regression, they were saying about the size decrease, mass decrease, everything is decreased, right? So what can be the thing here? The particular answer is accidental involution of thymus. Accidental involution of thymus. Okay, now why is it so? To understand the situation, first of all, let me tell you, accidental involution is given in the option. If it is not given in the option, then they might give you accidental thymus transformation. Okay, or in other words, you should be well prepared. Accidental thymus transformation, that can also be the right answer. Okay, either they are giving you the accidental involution or either they are giving you the accidental thymus transformation. They are one and the same thing. Now let me tell you what is actually happening in this case. So there will be a reduction in the size and mass. Why is it happening? Because thymocytes mean thymus cells, they are actually starting the migration. They actually starts migrating to the peripheral immune organs and the blood, as well as there can be some kind of degradation or absorption by the macrophages. Okay, now it is very easy to understand. If I am taking a particular amount of cell over here, let's say this is the thing. Okay, let's say this is the thymus. If whatever amount of thymocytes are present over there, okay, let's say these are the thymocytes, if they will start to migrate, from this thymus, okay, what do you think, what will be left inside? Guys? The thymocytes are decreasing over there. Okay, this is the state, or else there is some kind of culprit sitting inside. Okay, let's say there is some kind of culprit sitting inside. This is what? This is the macrophages. This is what? This is macrophages. What they will do? These macrophages, they will be actually capturing them. They will be what? They will be doing what? They will be capturing them. Then what might happen? These thymocytes are decreasing inside this thymus, right? This was thymus, right? These thymocytes are decreasing actually, either due to migration, either due to engulfment of with the macrophages, right, by the macrophages. Then thymocytes will be decreasing inside the thymus, and we are calling that as accidental thymus transformation either, or we are calling that as thymus accidental involution of thymus, or accidental thymus transformation. So that is the thing which is happening. Okay, and if the engulfing is happening by the macrophages of these thymocytes, we are calling that as apoptosis process, right? Because T cells maturation has to be done inside the thymus, and whatever extra amount of thymocyte will be there, that will be engulfed by the thymus. If they are happening at a very large scale, then we are calling that as accidental involution of thymus or accidental thymus transformation. Okay, so guys, this was the discussion about the proliferative inflammation and about the immune associated processes. Okay, I hope you liked the discussion. If you did, please hit the like button, share among your friends, and keep watching all the series of this pathomorphology discussion. This will be very, very helpful for you, and I am talking about other kind of aspects along with the question and the options that might help you in solving other kind of question, as the era is changing now about the CROC as well. Okay, they are not asking you the direct question. Yes, direct questions are coming, but there are only 20 to 30% direct questions are coming, and they actually, if you want to pass, then they actually want you to know some other things as well. Topics are going to be same. They're not asking you very, very new things. If the new things are coming, that will be only and only 5 to 10% hardly. Okay, but nobody will be able to do that, right? So you don't need to worry about that. You need to worry about the things which are actually already asked, whichever topics have already been asked. If you know the things very well, if you don't know the things, build your concept over those topics. Okay, because they are going to be asked. Okay, so I wish you a very good luck and keep preparing, and I will see you in my next one. Thank you so much. Bye.